Well, good day, everyone, everywhere, and special greetings to all those seated in heavenly places in Jesus. I am back and live this morning, and we're going to continue our study in Genesis, where we left off last time. Let me bring that up here. We left off at Genesis chapter 44. About verse 17. So let's let Matthew Henry tell us where we left off in his commentary on that section where we left off last time. Genesis 44, 1 through 17. Joseph heaps further kindness upon his brethren, fills their sacks, returns their money, and sends them away full of gladness. But he also exercises them with further trials. Our God thus humbles those whom he loves and loads with benefits. Joseph ordered his steward to put a fine silver cup, which he had, and which it is likely was used at his table when they dined with him, into Benjamin's sack's mouth, that it might seem as if he had stolen it from the table, and put it here himself, after his corn was delivered to him. If Benjamin had stolen it, it had been the basest piece of dishonesty and ingratitude that could be, and if Joseph, by ordering it to be there, had designed really to take advantage against him, it had been in him a most horrid cruelty and oppression. But it proved in the issue that there was no harm done, nor any designed on either side. Observe how the pretended criminals were pursued and arrested on suspicion of having stolen a silver cup. The steward charged them with ingratitude, rewarding evil for good, and with folly in taking the cup of daily use, and which therefore would soon be missed, and diligent search made for it, so that it may be read, "Is not this it which my Lord drinketh? Is not this it in which my Lord drinketh?" as having particular fondness for it, and for which he would search thoroughly, or by which, leaving it carelessly at your table, he would make trial whether you were honest men or not. Also, how they pleaded for themselves, they solemnly protested their innocence and detestation of so base a thing, urged it as an instance of their honesty that they had brought their money back, and offered to submit to the severest punishment if they should be found guilty. And then how the theft was fastened upon Benjamin. In his sack the cup was found, to whom Joseph had been particularly kind. Benjamin, no doubt, was ready to deny upon oath the taking of the cup, and we may suppose him as little liable to suspicion as any of them. But it is in vain to confront such notorious evidence. The cup is found in his custody. They dare not arraign Joseph's justice, nor so much as suggest that perhaps he that had put their money in their sacks' mouths had put the cup there, and they threw themselves upon Joseph's mercy. And here is their humble submission. They acknowledge the righteousness of God. God hath found out the iniquity of thy servants, perhaps referring to the injury they had formerly done to Joseph, for which they thought God was now reckoning with them. Note, even in those afflictions wherein we apprehend ourselves wronged by men, yet we must own that God is righteous and finds out our iniquity. 2, they surrender themselves prisoners to Joseph. We are my Lord's servants. Now, Joseph's dreams were accomplished to the utmost. Their bowing so often and doing homage might be looked upon as but a compliment, and no more than what other strangers did. But the construction they themselves in their pride had put upon his dream was, thou shalt have dominion over us. And in the sense it is now at length fulfilled. They own themselves his vassals, since they did invidiously so understand it, and so it shall be fulfilled in them. Joseph, with an air of justice, gives sentence to Benjamin only, that Benjamin only should be kept in bondage, and the rest should be dismissed. For why should any suffer but the guilty? Perhaps Joseph intends thereby to try Benjamin's temper, whether he could bear such hardships as this with calmness and composure of mind that became a wise and good man. In short, whether he was indeed his own brother, in spirit as well as blood, for Joseph himself had been falsely accused, and had suffered hard things in consequence, and yet kept possession of his own soul. However, it is plain that he intended hereby to try the affection of his brethren to Benjamin and to their father. If they had gone away contentedly and left Benjamin in bonds, no doubt Joseph would soon have released and promoted him, and sent notice to Jacob, and would have left the rest of his brethren justly to suffer for their hard-heartedness. But they proved to be better to Benjamin than he feared. Note, we cannot judge what men are by what they have been formerly, nor what they will do by what they have done. Age and experience may make men wiser and better. Those that had sold Joseph would not now abandon Benjamin. The worst may mend in time. And we come to verse 18. Then Judah came near unto him, and said, O my Lord, let thy servant, I pray thee, speak a word in my Lord's ears, and let not thine anger burn against thy servant, for thou art even as Pharaoh. My Lord asks his servants, saying, Have ye a father or a brother? Now, of course, Judah comes near, and he's speaking through an interpreter still. Joseph has not revealed that he even knows how to speak Hebrew yet. So he's talking to him through his interpreter. And we said to my Lord, we have a father, an old man, and a child of his old age, a little one, and his brother is dead, and he alone is left of his mother, and his father loveth him. And thou saidst to thy servants, Bring him down to me, that I may set my eyes upon him. And we said unto my Lord, The lad cannot leave his father, for if he should leave his father would die. And thou said to the servants, Except your youngest brother come down with you, you shall see my face no more. And it came to pass, when we came up unto thy servant my father, we told him the words of my Lord. And our father said, Go again and buy us a little food. And we said, We cannot go down if our youngest brother be not with us. Then will we go down, for we may not see the man's face, except our youngest brother be with us. And thy servant my father said unto us, Ye know that my wife bare me 2 sons, and the one went out from me, and I said, Surely he is torn in pieces, and I saw him not since. And if you take this also from me, and mischief befall him, you shall bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to the grave. Now therefore, when I come to thy servant my father, and the lad be not with us, seeing that his life is bound up in the lad's life, it shall come to pass, when he seeth that the lad is not with us, that he will die, and thy servants shall bring down the gray hairs of thy servant our father with sorrow to the grave. For thy servant became surety for the lad unto my father, saying, If I bring him not unto thee, then I shall bear the blame to my father forever. Now therefore I pray thee, let thy servant abide instead of the lad, a bondman to my Lord, and let the lad go up with his brethren. For how shall I go up to my father, and the lad be not with me, lest peradventure I see the evil that shall come on my father? Yeah. So here we have a most ingenious and pathetic speech with which Judah made to Joseph on Benjamin's behalf to obtain his discharge from the sentence passed upon him. Perhaps Judah was a better friend to Benjamin than the rest were, and more solicitous to bring him off, or he thought himself under greater obligations to attempt it than the rest, because he passed his word to his father for his safe return, or the rest chose him for their spokesman, because he was a man of better sense and better spirit, and had a greater command of language than any of them. His address, as it is here recorded, is so very natural and expressive of his present feelings that we cannot but suppose Moses, who wrote it so long after, to have written it under the special direction of him that made man's mouth. Roman numeral 1, a great deal of unaffected art and unstudied, unforced rhetoric there is in this speech. He addresses himself to Joseph with a great deal of respect and deference, calls him his Lord, himself and his brethren his servants, begs his patient hearing, and describes sovereign authority to him. Thou art even as Pharaoh, one whose favor we desire and whose wrath we dread, as we do Pharaoh's. Religion does not destroy good manners, and it is prudence to speak respectfully to those at whose mercy we lie. Titles of honor to those that are entitled to them are not flattering titles. He represented Benjamin as one well worthy of his compassionate consideration. He was a little one compared with the rest of them, the youngest, not acquainted with the world, nor ever inured to hardship, having always been brought up tenderly with his father. It made the case the more pitiable that he alone was left of his mother, and his brother was dead, namely Joseph. Little did Judah think what a tender point he touched upon. Judah knew that Joseph was sold, and therefore had reason enough to think that he was alive. At least he could not be sure that he was dead. But they made that their father believe he was dead. And now they had told that lie so long that they had forgotten the truth and begun to believe the lie themselves. He urged it very closely that Joseph had himself constrained them to bring Benjamin with them, had expressed a desire to see him, and had forbidden them his presence unless they brought Benjamin with them, all which intimated that he designed him some kindness and must be brought with so much difficulty to the preferment of a perpetual slavery. Okay. Was he not brought to Egypt in obedience, purely in obedience to the command of Joseph? And would he not show him some mercy? Some observe that Jacob's sons, in reasoning with their father, had said, "We will not go down unless Benjamin go with us." But that when Judah comes to relate the story, he expresses it more decently. We cannot go down with any expectation to speed well. Indecent words spoken in haste to our superiors should be recalled and amended. For the great argument he insisted upon was the insupportable grief it would be to his aged father if Benjamin should be left behind in servitude. His father loveth him. This they had pleaded against Joseph, insisting on his coming down. If he should leave his father would die. Much more if now he be left behind, never more to return to him. This the old man of whom they spoke had pleaded against his going down. If mischief befall him, You shall bring down my gray hairs, that crown of glory, with sorrow to the grave. This therefore Judah presses with a great deal of earnestness. His life is bound up in the lad's life. When he sees that the lad is not with us, he will faint away and die immediately, or will abandon himself to such a degree of sorrow as will, in a few days, make an end of him. And lastly, Judah pleads that, for his part, he could not bear to see this. Let me not see the evil that shall come on my father. No, it is the duty of children to be very tender of their parents' comfort, and to be afraid of everything that may be an occasion of grief to them. Thus the love that descended first must again ascend, and something must be done toward a recompense for their care. Judah, in honor of the justice of Joseph's sentence, and to show his sincerity in this plea, offers himself to become a bondsman instead of Benjamin. Thus the law would be satisfied. Joseph would be no loser, for we may suppose Judah a more able-bodied man than Benjamin, and fitter for service, and Jacob would better bear the loss of him than of Benjamin. Now so far he was from grieving his father's particular fondness for Benjamin, that he himself was willing to become a bondman or slave to indulge it. Now, had Joseph been, as Judah supposed him, an utter stranger to the family, yet even common humanity could not but be wrought upon by such powerful reasonings as these, for nothing could be said more moving, more tender. It was enough to melt a heart of stone. But to Joseph, who was nearer akin to Benjamin than Judah himself was, and who at this time felt a greater affection, both for him and his aged father, than Judah did, nothing could be more pleasingly nor more happily said. Neither Jacob nor Benjamin needed an intercessor with Joseph, for he himself loved them. Upon the whole matter, let us take notice how prudently Judah suppressed all mention of the crime that was charged upon Benjamin. Had he said anything by the way of acknowledgment of it, he would have reflected on Benjamin's honesty, and seemed too forward to suspect that. Had he said anything by way of denial of it, he would have reflected on Joseph's justice, and the sentence he had passed. Therefore he wholly waives that head, and appeals to Joseph's pity. Compare this with that of Job, in humbling himself before God. Though I were righteous, yet would I not answer. I would not argue, but petition. I would make supplication to my judge. What good reason, dying, Jacob had to say, Judah, thou art, whom they Judah, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise. For he excelled them all in boldness, wisdom, eloquence, and especially tenderness for their father and family. Judah's faithful adherence to Benjamin, now in his distress, was recompensed long after by the constant adherence of the tribe of Benjamin to the tribe of Judah, when all the other 10 tribes deserted it. How fitly does the apostle, when he is discoursing of the mediation of Christ, observe that our Lord sprang out of Judah, for like his father Judah, he not only made intercession for the transgressors, but he became a surety for them, as it follows there, testifying therein a very tender concern both for his father and for his brethren. And we move on to chapter 45 and verse 1. Then Joseph could not refrain himself before all them that stood by him, and he cried, Cause every man to go out from me. And there stood no man with him, while Joseph made himself known unto his brethren. So he sent all the Egyptian servants away. Perhaps Joseph maybe even being the only Hebrew in all of Egypt. Who knows? But he certainly was the only Hebrew there. So he sent them all out. And he wept out loud. And the Egyptians in the house of Pharaoh heard. And Joseph said to his brethren, now he's going to speak in a language they understand. I am Joseph. Does my father yet live? And his brethren could not answer him, for they were troubled at his presence. I mean, they were dumbfounded. They probably standing all with their mouths hanging open and with nothing coming out of them. If you could imagine the drama up to this point that, that went over months. Verse 4, and Joseph said to his brethren, come near me, I pray you. And they came near, and he said, I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into Egypt. Now therefore be not grieved nor angry with yourselves, that you sold me hither. For God did not send me before you, for God did send me before you to preserve life. For these 2 years hath the famine been in the land. So it's been 2 years. I don't know how long it was since their first visit to this, their second visit. But the famine had been now going on 2 years. And he says, and yet there are 5 years in which there shall be neither earing nor harvest. And God sent me before you to preserve you a posterity in the earth, and to save your lives by great deliverance. So now it was not you that sent me hither, but God. And he hath made me a father to Pharaoh, and lord of all his house, and a ruler throughout all the land of Egypt. Haste ye, and go up to my father, and say unto him, thus saith thy son Joseph, God hath made me Lord of all Egypt. Come down unto me, tarry not. And thou shalt dwell in the land of Goshen, and thou shalt not be near unto me. And thou shalt be near unto me, thou and thy children and thy children's children, and thy flocks and thy herds, and all that thou hast. You can tell Joseph has already thought the plan entirely out, every detail of what he was going to do and how he was going to provide, even setting aside the land called Goshen for them. And thou shalt dwell in the land of Goshen, and thou shalt be near unto me, thou, thy children, and thy children's children, and thy flocks, and thy herds, and all that thou hast. And there I will nourish thee, for yet there are 5 years of famine, lest thou and thy household and all that thou hast come to poverty. And behold, your eyes see, and the eyes of my brother Benjamin, that it is my mouth that speaks unto you. And you shall tell my father of all my glory in Egypt, and of all that you have seen. And ye shall haste, and bring down my father hither. And he fell upon his brother Benjamin's neck, and wept. And Benjamin wept upon his neck. Moreover, he kissed all his brethren, and wept upon them. And after that, his brethren talked with him. Judah and his brethren were waiting for an answer, and could not but be amazed to discover, instead of the gravity of a judge, the natural affection of a father or brother Joseph ordered all of his attendants to withdraw. The private conversation of friends are the most free. When Joseph would put on love, he puts off state. And it was not fit that his servants should be witness of this. Thus Christ graciously manifests himself and his loving kindness to his people, out of the sight and hearing of the world. Tears were the preface or introduction to his discourse. He had dammed up the stream a great while, and with much ado, but now it swelled so high that he could no longer contain. But he wept aloud, so that those whom he had forbidden to see him could not but hear him. These were tears of tenderness and strong affection, and with these he threw off that austerity with which he had hitherto carried himself towards his brethren, for he could not bear it any longer. This represents the divine compassion towards returning penitents, as much as that of the father of the prodigal. He very abruptly, as one uneasy till it was out, tells them who he was. I am Joseph. They knew him only by his Egyptian name, Zaphnath-Paneah, but his Hebrew name being lost and forgotten in Egypt. But now he teaches them to call him by that. I am Joseph. Nay, that they may not suspect it was another of the same name, he explains himself, I am Joseph, your brother. This would both humble them yet more for their sin in selling him, and would encourage them to hope for kind treatment. Thus, when Christ would convince Paul, he said, I am Jesus. And when he would comfort his disciples, he said, it is I. Be not afraid. This word at first startled Joseph's brethren. They started back through fear, or at least stood still astonished. But Joseph called kindly and familiarly to them, come near, I pray you. Thus, when Christ manifests himself to his people, he encourages them to draw near to him with a true heart. Perhaps being about to speak of their selling him, he would not speak aloud, lest the Egyptians should overhear, and it should make the Hebrews be yet more an abomination to them. Therefore he would have them come near, that he might whisper with them, which now that the tide of his passion was a little over, he was able to do, whereas at first he could not but cry out. He endeavors to assuage their grief for the injuries they had done him, by showing him that whatever they designed, God meant it for good, and had brought much good out of it. Be not grieved, nor angry with yourselves. Sinners must grieve and be angry with themselves for their sins, yea, though God by his power brings good out of them. For no thanks are due to the sinner for this, but true penitents should be greatly affected when they see God thus bringing good out of evil, meat out of the eater. Though we must not, with this consideration, extenuate our own sins and so take off the edge of our repentance, yet it may be well thus to extenuate the sins of others and so take off the edge of our angry resentments. Thus Joseph does here. His brethren needed not to fear that he would avenge upon them an injury which God's providence had made to turn so much to his advantage and that of his family. He now tells them how long the famine was likely to last, 5 years more. What a capacity he was in of being kind to his relation and friends, which is the greatest satisfaction that wealth and power can give to a good man. See what a favorable color he puts upon the injury they had done him. God sent me before you. Note, 1. God's Israel is the particular care of God's providence. Joseph reckoned that his advancement was not so much designed to save a whole kingdom of Egyptians as to preserve a small family of Israelites. For the Lord's portion is his people. Whatever becomes theirs, they shall be secured. Providence looks a great way forward and has a long reach. Even before the years of plenty, Providence was preparing for the supply of Jacob's house in the years of famine. The psalmist praises God for this. He sent a man before them, even Joseph. God sees his work from the beginning to the end, but we do not. How admirable are the projects of providence, how remote its tendencies. What wheels are there within wheels, and yet all directed by the eyes in the wheels, and the spirit of the living creature. Let us therefore judge nothing before the time. God often works by contraries. The envy and contention of brethren threaten the ruin of families. Yet in this instance, they prove the occasion of preserving Jacob's family. Joseph could never have been the shepherd and stone of Israel if his brethren had not shot at him and hated him. Even those that had wickedly sold Joseph into Egypt, yet themselves reaped the benefit of the good God brought out of it. As those that put Christ to death, were many of them saved by his death. God must have all the glory of the seasonable preservations of his people, by what way soever they are affected. It was not you that sent me hither, but God. As on the one hand, they must not fret at it because it ended so well, so on the other hand, they must not be proud of it because it was God's doing and not theirs. They designed by selling him into Egypt to defeat his dreams, but God thereby designed to accomplish them. He promises to take care of his father and all the family during the rest of the years of the famine. He desires that his father may speedily be made glad with the tidings of his life and dignity. His brethren must hasten to Canaan and must inform Jacob that his son Joseph was Lord of all Egypt. They must tell him of all his glory there. He knew it would be a refreshing oil to his hoary head and a sovereign cordial to his spirits. If anything would make him young again, this would. He desires them to give themselves and take with them to their father all possible satisfaction of the truth of these surprising tidings. Your eyes see that it is my mouth. If they would recollect themselves, they might remember something of this feature, speech, etc., and be satisfied. He is very earnest that his father and all his family should come to him to Egypt. Come down unto me, tarry not. He allots his dwelling in Goshen, that part of Egypt which lay towards Canaan, that they might be mindful of the country from which they were to come out of. He promises to provide for him. I will nourish thee. Note, it is the duty of children, if the necessity of their parents do at any time require it, to support and supply them to the utmost of their ability. And Korban will never excuse them. And of course the word Korban refers to charity or things like socialist security. The word Korban says, this is showing piety at home, our Lord Jesus being, like Joseph, exalted to the highest honors and powers of the upper world. It is his will that all that are his should be with him where he is. This is his commandment, that we be with him now in faith and hope, and in heavenly conversation or lifestyle, and this is his promise, that we shall be forever with him. Endearments were interchanged between him and his brethren. He began with the youngest, his own brother Benjamin, who was but about a year old when Joseph was separated from his brethren. They wept on each other's necks, perhaps to think of their mother Rachel, who died in travail of Benjamin. Rachel, in her husband Jacob, had been lately weeping for her children, because in his apprehension they were not, Joseph gone and Benjamin going, and now they were weeping for her, because she was not. After he had embraced Benjamin, he in like manner caressed them all, and then his brethren talked with him freely and familiarly of all the affairs of their father's house, after the tokens of true reconciliation follow the instances of a sweet communion. And we come to chapter 46 and verse 1. And Israel took his journey with all that he had, and came to Beersheba, and offered sacrifices unto the God of his father Isaac. And God spake unto Israel in the vision of the night, and said, Jacob, Jacob. And he said, Here am I. And he said, I am God, the God of thy father. Fear not to go down into Egypt, for I will there make of thee a great nation. I will go down with thee into Egypt, and I will also surely bring thee up again, and Joseph, and put his hand upon thine eyes. And Jacob rose up from Beersheba, and the sons of Israel carried Jacob their father, and their little ones and their wives, in the wagons which Pharaoh had sent to carry him. And they took their cattle and their goods, which they had gotten in the land of Canaan, and came into Egypt, Jacob and all his seed with him. His sons and his sons' sons with him, his daughters and his sons' daughters, and all his seed brought he with him into Egypt. And these are the names of the children of Israel, which came into Egypt, Jacob and his sons, Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, and the sons of Reuben, Hanok, Phalu, Hezron, and Carmi, and the sons of Simeon, Jemuel, Jamin, Ohad, Jachin, Zohar, and Shaul, the son of a Canaanitish woman. And the sons of Levi, Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. And the sons of Judah, and Onan, Shelah, Pharez, Zerah. But and Onan died in the land of Canaan. And the sons of Pharez were Hezron and Hamel. And the sons of Issachar, Tola and Puvah and Job and Shimron. And the sons of Zebulun, Sarad and Elon and Jael. These be the sons of Leah, which she bare unto Jacob in Padan Aram, with his daughter Dinah, and all the souls of his sons and his daughters were 33. And the sons of Gad, Ziphion, and Haggai, Shuni, Esbon, Eri, Eridai, and Ereli. And the sons of Asher, Jimnah, Ishua, Isiu, Beriah, Sarah, their sister, and the sons of Beriah, Heber, and Malkiel. And these are the sons of Zilpah, whom Laban gave to Leah his daughter, and she bare unto Jacob even 16 souls. The sons of Rachel, Jacob's wife, Joseph, and Benjamin. And unto Joseph in the land of Egypt were born Manasseh and Ephraim, which Asenath, the daughter of Potipharah, priest of On, bare unto him. And the sons of Benjamin were Bela and Becher and Ashbel, Gera and Nahum and Ehi and Rosh, Mupim and Huppim and Ard. These are the sons of Rachel, which were born unto Jacob. All the souls were 14. And the sons of Dan, Hushim, and the sons of Naphtali, Jaziel and Guni and Jezer and Shillem. And these are the sons of Bilhah, which Laban gave unto Rachel his daughter, and she bare these unto Jacob. All the souls were 7. And all the souls that came with Jacob unto Egypt, which came out of his loins, besides Jacob's sons' wives, all the souls were 66. So 66. And the sons of Joseph, which were born into him in Egypt, were 2 souls. All the souls of the house of Jacob, which came unto Egypt, were 70. And he sent Judah before him unto Joseph, to direct his face unto Goshen. And they came into the land of Goshen. And Joseph made ready his chariot, and went up to meet Israel his father to Goshen, and presented himself unto him, and he fell on his neck, and wept on his neck a good while. And Israel said unto Joseph, Now let me die, since I have seen thy face, because thou art yet alive. And Joseph said unto his brethren, and I think more fitting he would be saying something, Now I may die in peace. Okay. Maybe something lost in the translation there, but I would think that would be more about what he would be saying is, now that I've seen your face, now I may die in peace, because I've seen you are yet alive. And Joseph said unto his brethren and unto his father's house, I will go up and show Pharaoh, and say unto him, My brethren and my father's house, which were in the land of Canaan, are come unto me. And the men are shepherds, for their trade hath been to feed cattle, and they brought their flocks and their herds, and all that they have. And it shall come to pass, when Pharaoh shall call you, you shall say, What is your shall say, What is your occupation? That you shall say, Thy servant's trade hath been about cattle from our youth even till now. We both, and also our fathers, that you may dwell in the land of Goshen, for every shepherd is an abomination unto the Egyptians. So I guess they don't like shepherds. Cattle, I guess they think if you have to keep cattle and sheep, that you're beneath them somehow, or an abomination. They didn't want you in Egypt. And that was just as well, because God wanted his people to remain separated, as he wants them, though we are in the world, but we are not of it. So our lives should be separated. So Matthew Henry says, we have here, 1, the joyful meeting of Jacob and his son Joseph, in which we observe Jacob's prudence in sending Judah before him to Joseph to give him notice of his arrival in Goshen. This was a piece of respect owing to the government under the protection of which these strangers had come to put themselves. We should be very careful to not give offense to any, especially to the higher powers. Joseph's filial respect to him. He went in his chariot to meet him, and in the interview showed how much he honored him. He presented himself unto him. Note, it is the duty of children to reverence their parents. Yea, though providence, as to outward condition, has advanced them above their parents. How much he loved him. Time did not wear out the sense of his obligations, but his tears, which he shed abundantly upon his father's neck for joy to see him, were real indications of the sincere and strong affection he had for him. See how near sorrow and joy are to each other in this world, when tears serve for the expression of both. In the other world, weeping will be restrained to sorrow only. In heaven, there is perfect joy, but no tears of joy. All tears, even those, shall there be wiped away, because the joys there are, as no joys are here, without any alloy. When Joseph embraced Benjamin, he wept upon his neck, but when he embraced his father, he wept upon his neck a good while. His brother Benjamin was dear, but his father, Jacob, must be dearer. Jacob's great satisfaction in this meeting, now let me die, not but that it was further desirable to live with Joseph and to see his honor and his usefulness, but he had so much pleasure and satisfaction in this first meeting that he thought it too much to desire or expect any more in this world, where our comforts must always be imperfect. Jacob wished to die immediately and live 17 years longer. And that's why I say, I think he was saying, now I can die in peace. And I think that would be pretty much what even perhaps Matthew Henry is trying to express, but perhaps that expression had not been coined or does not translate from the Hebrew into English, or, as I said, maybe it was not an expression used in early English when the King James Version was written. So, but it seems to convey the thought here better. Now I can die in peace. And he lived 17 more years, as is noted here by Matthew Henry, which, as our lives go now, is a considerable part of a man's age. No, death will not always come just when we call for it, whether in our passion of sorrow or in our passion of joy. Our times are in God's hand and not in our own. We must die just when God pleases, and not either just when we are surfeited with the pleasures of life, or just when we are overwhelmed with its griefs. Yes, wise words. Joseph's prudent care concerning his brethren's settlement. It was justice to Pharaoh to let him know that such a colony had come to settle in his dominions. Note, if others repose a confidence in us, we must not be so base and disingenuous as to abuse it by imposing upon them. If Jacob and his family should come to be a charge to the Egyptians, yet it should never be said that they came among them clandestinely and by stealth. Thus Joseph took care to pay his respects to Pharaoh. But how shall he dispose of his brethren? Time was then they were contriving to get rid of him, but now he's contriving to settle them to their satisfaction and advantage. This is rendering good for evil. One, he would have them to live by themselves, separate as much as might be from the Egyptians, in the land of Goshen, which lay nearest to Canaan, and which perhaps was more thinly peopled by the Egyptians, and well furnished with pastures for cattle. He desired that they might live separately, that they might be in the less danger both of being infected with the vices of the Egyptians and of being insulted by the malice of the Egyptians. Shepherds, it seems, were an abomination to the Egyptians. That is, they looked upon them with contempt and scorned to converse with them. And he would not send his brethren to Egypt to be tramped upon. And yet, too, he would have them continue shepherds and not be ashamed to own that as their occupation before Pharaoh. He could have employed them under himself in the corn trade, or perhaps by his interest in the king might have procured places for them at court or in army, and some of them at least were deserving enough, but such preferments would have exposed them to the envy of the Egyptians, and would have tempted them to forget Canaan and the promise made unto their fathers. Therefore he contrives to continue them in their old employment. Note, an honest calling is no disparagement, nor ought we to account it so either in ourselves or in our relations, but rather reckon it a shame to be idle or to have nothing to do. It is generally best for people to abide in the callings that they have been bred to and used to, whatever employment or condition God, in his providence, has allotted for us. Let us accommodate ourselves to it and satisfy ourselves with it, and not mind high things. It is better to be the credit of a mean post than the shame of a high one. Yes, amen to that. And that's the end of the hour, so we'll pick up with chapter 47 next time. Make sure you like this video and share it, and tell everyone you know about firstamendmentradio.net/Moby for their for your smartphone device, so you can listen when you're at work, traveling on the road, working out in the field, whatever you're doing, or just rather than listening to idle talk radio or the idolatry of romance, worldly music, and other nonsense that many of us have filled our minds with in times past, or perhaps still even do. You can change the channel and tune in with Kingdom teaching on First Amendment Radio, and still get some news of what's going on out there in the world. I like to have a good balance of both things on First Amendment Radio. So make sure you take advantage of that and spread the word, as I really need your help. Don't have an advertising budget, so please spread it around as much as you can for me. You guys are my advertising budget. Anyway, so and if you haven't yet, make sure you you follow my blog at nicholasarthur.wordpress.com. Visit our bookstore at crosstheborder.org. That takes you to a page at my website, so you can get it from the tab there. Follow the blog, and of course, join me live on Wednesdays for 2 hours where we have open discussion, mainly talk about prophecy, and we can hit on other topics occasionally, but just need you to show up for that. I will be sitting in this chair at the same time, 9 a.m., and be here for 2 hours. In the next hour, coming up here, we will be jumping back into, let's see, where is it? Yes. The History of Protestantism by James A. Wiley. So make sure you get there, and we're continuing that, and I'm recording that, and it will be available on Audible when I'm done. But the playlist for both of these series that I'm recording right now are on my, you can find the Genesis study on my Bible study tab. And I've run out of time. So thank you all for joining me. May the Almighty bless you all and keep you. See you next time. Hi, I'm Nicholas Arthur, and I'd like to introduce you to my latest book, Reformed Prophecy Interpretation, an apology for Reformed premillennial historicism in the 21st century. As with primitive biblical Christianity, historicism is the method of prophecy interpretation restored with the advent of the Protestant Reformation, and had become so widely held that for a long time it was called the Protestant view. My book is not so much about the errors of dispensationalism or amillennialism. Rather, it is about the historicist alternative to understanding many of the same passages from the vantage point of prophecy fulfilled in history. For those that desire more than mere hypotheses, bolstered with conjectured speculation, those who require explicit biblical exegesis and verified historical fulfillment, and are not willing to accept speculation as anything other than what it is. Speculation, not truth. This book is for you. Over the last century, this method of interpretation has become almost completely forgotten, even by Protestants, in the face of a method that is based almost entirely on future speculation, rather than fulfilled prophecy in history. In my book, I examine the reasons for this and investigate some of the prophecy which has been fulfilled in the interim, as well as present an apology for Reformed premillennial historicism to the 21st century. If you're interested in a copy of my book, you can go to my website, crosstheborder.org, and get more information there, or you may also find it at Amazon.